Ray Sharma, General Partner, Pacer Ventures. Ray is the founder and leader of Extreme Venture Partners, Canada's top seed stage venture fund. Ray and Extreme Venture Partners has lead funded or founded 100 plus startups with exits to Apple, Google, Electronic Arts, Mckesson, Salesforce, and many others. Community service is an integral part of Ray's business philosophy. Ray has served 4 years on the Ontario Judicial Council, oversight body for the judicial system, another 6 years of service at the Royal Ontario Museum as a member of the Board of Trustees, as an advisor to the Government of Canada and the Government of Ontario on open data strategy. Ray authored a chapter with the CIO of the Government of Canada on the role of 5G on citizen services. Ray is the founder and leader of National Hackathon Competition's Great Canadian Appathon, Canadian Open Data Experience, CODE, as well as charitable organization Hackagal. Ray serves as the Technical Advisory Committee of Duality Accelerator, the first program in the US focused on quantum science and technology. With a rousing ovation, let's make welcome Ray Sharma.
Just before I begin, I just want to recognize my partners. If they could just stand up. First, Hadiza, our General Manager of Pacer Labs. And right next to Hadiza is Bemi, who's a Nigerian-Canadian. And then my favorite, Jeffrey. Where's Jeffrey? Jeffrey, the fintech baba. Oh, he's hiding, unfortunately, but he's a co-founder of Dominium as well. We have a problem here today, everyone. We have a pretty big problem, or at least I do. I have a presentation that's probably a 60-minute presentation that I need to get done in 20 minutes. So I'm going to go fast, and I'm going to click through this presentation. And if you, by any chance, get a little bit uneasy when it comes to video games, just look away if this makes you nauseous or anything like that. Let's begin. When Steve Jobs died, I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote this op-ed. It was published in the national newspaper as well as many of the papers across Canada. And the title, Innovation is Evolution, is a good setup for this presentation. The question I ask in this is, I looked at some different aspects of Jobs and spirituality and so on, but the core question I asked is, why do we care? Why are we so fascinated by this man? Why does he have multiple movies already? Why do, when Apple comes out with a new color, that they write articles about it and it trends? It's because it's innate within all of us to respect evolution. If you see somebody bettering themselves, you respect that. Whenever you see a person running a marathon or educating themselves, you respect that. It's innate within our human nature to respect innovation, because innovation is evolution. Just to give some perspective, we're going to go give some perspective on blockchain and the metaverse and its impact to us all. I want to just take us way back in time, 400,000 BCE, in the invention of controlled fire, one of the most significant innovations in human history. It was more than just the ability to cook food. Carbohydrates had a dramatic increase on the brain capacity. It was more than just safety. It gathered us together. It made us start to communicate and collaborate. And that's why, if you fast forward to 100,000 BCE, that's when we see the invention of semantic and phonetic languages. Farming is invented 15,000 BCE. These are innovations that were so profound, they changed the world in dramatic ways. And we really cherry-picked the best ones. The invention of the wheel, the first use of money, 3000 BC. During the Dark Ages, it's kind of interesting they call it Dark Ages, because during that period of 1,000 years, I had a real tough time finding significant innovations that affected human history. The word Dark Ages is very appropriate. We skipped through the invention of electricity, steam engine, the telegraph, the telephone, the transistor, eventually leading to the PC in 1969 when the internet was born. That's the true birth date of the internet. And ultimately the first phone and then the World Wide Web. If the internet was the apocalypse that basically shook the world, the aftershocks to the internet are as follows. First, after the bubble, we had a dramatic overspend in infrastructure, huge spend in the backbone, underseas cabling. The mobile era really began when Apple released the App Store, 2008, and then we had other subsequent waves, social media era, the sharing economy, the fintech revolution, the Internet of Everything. Now we're going to be drilling down on this topic, the metaverse and blockchain. And artificial intelligence. I've given presentations that last an hour just on artificial intelligence, but this is a very significant one because beyond AI, it's very difficult to see how innovation will evolve. And that's because AI will be driving innovation. And that'll be a very interesting time. So we're now sitting in an era where there's fintech startups everywhere. In fact, if you look at the homepage of Standard Bank, look how every part of that website is under attack by a fintech startup. So basically, there's an African fintech startup for it. This gentleman used to run Barclays Bank. He said something very interesting. He was talking about the evolution of banking services, talking about how he expects a dramatic reduction in the amount of branches. And you know what? If you look at how the news has developed over time, you have these job cuts, 2016, 2019, 2020, all even Canadian banks. And what's happening is we're seeing a shift towards this. That's $220 billion invested in global fintech. That is an unbelievable number. If you look at the African number, it's about 2 billion, so it's about 1%. So 2 billion is a mega number. If you look at how many startups in Africa are fintech based, it's a huge number. But 2 billion, Africa's GDP as a percentage of the global GDP is about 4 or 5%, depending on the source. So it's a little bit underinvested. As big as it is, it actually can do more. This McKinsey report was very interesting, especially the title, Fintech in Africa, the End of the Beginning. Very ominous. Now, we open up today by talking about how blockchain can provide trust. I think this is a very important concept we've got to spend a moment on. Trust is what enables so much things, including economic development. You just look at the correlation of economic development and trust. It has a direct impact on growth. And so how can blockchain enable this and therefore impact growth? That's a question to ask. Now, when we look at blockchain, there's a couple of features of the technology that are interesting. The two most important things that I look at something like Bitcoin is that certainty of transaction. When you do that transaction, you know it's going to go through, and you have that ability to stay anonymous or be public. These are the core sort of features of blockchain. Being distributed, immutable. These are words that you're very familiar with, both public and private. And there's been a lot of hype about blockchain. There's no doubt that we have to kind of figure out what is the distill the difference between the hype and the reality. But the hype is really, translated into massive investment. So if you look at that, this is just investment in cryptocurrency and blockchain companies, about 30 billion. So just over 15% of the global fintech investment has gone into this area. Ultimately, blockchain, just to kind of make it really oversimple, blockchain is a ledger. In many ways, it's not dissimilar to what you have with your credit card network. You have a ledger of customers over here, you have a ledger of merchants over there, and they're the purveyors, they're the holders of that information. So how can trust and blockchain disrupt industry? Okay. What it can do is it can allow us to disrupt business models themselves. Trusted parties that typically stand in the middle, like a Visa and whatnot, we can now innovate and create new methods to basically overcome these issues of what that middleman represents. We already see this. We've seen this. Look at this. We've seen it with taxis, hotels and resorts, shopping malls. These are large companies that have been successful through this disintermediation. And if you look, this is a picture from Wayback Machine. This is what Expedia used to look like. And even Expedia, what were they doing? They were disintermediating travel brokers. So Web 1.0 had an early sign of things to come. Yet, there remains brokers that stay in the middle of transactions, especially ones with high levels of asymmetric information like real estate or stockbrokers. what blockchain allows is to take this complicated transaction, this is a real estate deal, and these are all the parties that are around it, and simplify it to that. Although blockchain has this unbelievable potential, let's not be confused and think that there will not always be a role for private systems. And healthcare is a great example. I don't think we want our public records to have public information about our healthcare, and there'll be many examples like that. In fact, some of the most boring, quote unquote, boring applications will be the ones that actually rule the day initially in blockchain. I got a couple of quick videos. Here's one on supply chain management that we can look at. This is IBM and Walmart working together for food information security.
I came into my staff meeting, I put them on the table, and I said, your traceback exercise starts right now. And we timed how long it took them to get the information for each point in the food system all the way back to the farm. And I'm not going to give you the results after the pilot. But it's going to be good.
That's one example. I'm going to skip some of these videos because of time constraints. Another one is, we'll just go through the video.
Today's trust and privacy landscape is changing fast. To keep up, we need to change how we work. Enterprises need to manage an increasingly complex workforce and ensure their workers are skilled, credentialed, and compliant. Individuals need new ways to capture and share their professional.
So we can see how blockchain is being used in very simplistic applications. You might think they're not very sexy, but they're very important. Things like real estate records, what Dominium's doing is excellent types of examples of what blockchain can do. But, Mohammed mentioned some issues with adoption, and these are some of the critical issues that the technology has faced. And there's still a ways to go. Ultimately, one of the most interesting applications, if we say boring applications are on one end of the spectrum and very interesting now, where blockchain will eventually lead towards is this concept called the metaverse. This one video will helpfully show you in 2 minutes exactly why people are so excited about this metaverse concept. Now let's be real in that the metaverse is a work in process concept, and it's got much time left to go. But if you wanted to understand really what got Mark Zuckerberg all excited and about the promise of this new world, I think this video will help demonstrate.
In 2045, Columbus is the fastest growing.
This is the one with the low volume.
It's where Halliday and Morrow started gregarious games.
So let's remember, we're in a world where not everyone's all happy and
These
stuff.
days,
So the metaverse is a great way for you to escape.
Everyone's looking for a way to escape.
Haptics,
and that's why Halliday,
physical feedback.
He's such a hero to us.
And then you can see how
he showed us that we could
here.
go somewhere without going anywhere at all. You don't need a destination when you're running on an omnidirectional treadmill with quadraphonic pressure-sensitive underlay. James Halliday saw the future, and then he built it. He gave us a place to go. A place called the Oasis. This is the Oasis. It's a place where the limits of reality are your own imagination. You can do anything. Go anywhere. Like the Vacation Planet. Surf a 50-foot monster wave in Hawaii. You can ski down the pyramids. You can climb Mount Everest with Batman. Check out this place. It's a casino the size of a planet. You can lose your money there. You can get married. You can get divorced. You can go in there. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do, but they stay because of all the things they can be. Tall, beautiful, scary, a different sex, a different species, live action, cartoon. It's all your call. Yeah, that's me. Well, that's my avatar. At least until I feel like changing.
So that concept exists in isolation in different places. And what the metaverse will do is will unite all these worlds, and they will become little worlds within the universe of the metaverse. And there will be an interoperability between worlds. You'll be able to take that character from system to system and system. But importantly, what blockchain will represent is the underlying infrastructure that will allow the economy to develop around this. And we look at the core properties of the universe, the metaverse, excuse me. These are 6 different properties that are important. And a fully functioning economy is very important. That's what will make this sustainable and repeatable and scalable. This is a complicated slide, but what it shows is sort of the economics in the metaverse. In this case, it's a game where you're basically mining asteroids. And as you're aggregating minerals, you're accumulating resources, and you trust that those resources will be in your account. You trust that you'll be able to use resources from one world to another world. And that's why that word trust keeps coming up again and again. Here's a graphic which shows 7 different sheets, if you will, of the metaverse. And, the infrastructure right up to the experience. The decentralization aspect is just one aspect of this, and the interoperability. And this is a hard slide to understand as well, but basically it reorients the entire interface between you and the internet. Before, you're the user and everything is surrounding you as for your devices and however you on-ramp to the network. In a blockchain-powered metaverse, things change. All these devices and applications are all interoperating. And just like you would see in nature or in a fully functioning economy. And the environment here in Africa, it's thriving. There's a lot of really interesting articles talking about this. The demand for developers in particular is something that I think we can all relate to. This slide here is something that hopefully everyone in the room is familiar with. It's a little bit dated, but it shows Nigeria is 32%. Like, look at the difference between how many respondents in these countries are saying they own cryptocurrency. That was, like I said, that survey's a little bit old, but that's a very significant survey, and it'll be very interesting to continue to watch how this evolves from here. Nigeria has tremendous potential in terms of leadership. There's a metaverse company locally as well. I was going to pull some videos from that, but there's some more room for development there. And there's this prediction here from Meta about the economic impact on Africa directly. Now, if I was to kind of bring things together and connect the dots from the earlier part of the presentation talking about the history of human innovation, and then we now talk about the evolution of humanity as well, I think this video here will help demonstrate what I think is the potential. That video, I love that video because it really does help, communicate the impact that we've gone through over the last short period of time. But, when we're in these periods of accelerating innovation, we're right in the middle of it. It's kind of difficult to have perspective. But the perspective that we can give from an African point of view is this. This is not Africa's year, in my opinion. There's a reason why we set up a venture fund. There's a reason why we set up a software development lab here in Nigeria, in Lagos in particular. And that's because when you look at the statistics, it's very, very clear. 50% of all live births on planet Earth are happening on this continent. The United Nations is saying that's going to trend to 70% by the end of the century. If I was to oversimplify how any economy grows, it's really through two primary drivers. One is through productivity growth, and the second is through population growth. Africa has the benefit of both. COVID was a terrible, terrible time, but there was some derivative implications, some sort of unforeseen circumstances, one of which is we've seen thousands and thousands of new ed tech startups emerge. And not all of them need to succeed, only a handful need to succeed and start showing a new way of doing education. And what place on planet Earth will benefit most from evolutions in the ed tech model? So this is not Africa's year. Actually, I don't even think this is Africa's decade. This is Africa's century. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I just want to again point out my partners, Hadiza and Bemi and Jeffrey, the one who's hiding. I don't know if Jeffrey's emerged. Has Jeffrey emerged? The fintech Baba. He's shy, but he's over there now, and we welcome to talk to anyone about software development or venture development. And I thank you for your patience, and thank you for having me here today. Thank you so much.